Am I confident you're going to like this episode? Stick around and find out. I'm John Paulus. You're listening to Life's Potluck Buffet. So on today's episode, I'm going to ask the cards about how to get confidence in anything that we're doing in life and work. So what we'll do is I will, as usual, shuffle the cards in the traditional way that I shuffle the cards, which is very ritualistic. 3 times I rearrange the cards with my left hand, holding them in my right hand. Okay, just kind of like loosely shuffling them, we'll call it that. And then I do a traditional shuffle away from the microphone, as you know, so I don't blow it up. All right, and then I cut the deck where it seems it needs to be cut. I look at it and see, okay, is there one place that sticks out? In this case, there are 2 places sticking out. There's one on the bottom that I'm very curious about. It's kind of like very low down, so I'm going to cut it there. That's unusual, but I look for where there are kind of gaps where it says, oh, cut here, to me. Okay, so I'm going to open that card. Draw that card. And it says, speak where you want to be and the way will appear. This is card number 15 in the Life's Potluck Buffet deck. When it occurs to you to say to yourself, I want to be X, say it to yourself and no one else. Then operate as if it were already true and be ready to say to others that it is true. Okay. There you go. Why not give it a try now, but say it to whoever's in the room? Oh, I'll say it to you. I want to be confident. So I think here, the cards, as always, the magical cards have a great answer for us. And this is the idea that when something occurs to you that you say like, I want to be, a broadcaster. I want to be a great host of a podcast. Okay. Say that to yourself. So whatever it is you're thinking about right now, say that to yourself and say it to no one else. Just keep it to yourself for a bit. Because there needs to be the development of self-confidence in this idea before you can project confidence about it to others. And this is for things that we're not yet confident about. For things that we're already confident about, that's a little bit easier because that involves getting at the heart of what our strength is, what we do well, and so forth. A really good way to do that is to do that simple exercise that I've explained maybe 3 or 4 times on this podcast, and I've done with probably 1,000 people. And that exercise is to ask the question, say, what if I didn't have to worry about money, healthcare, all of those things in life that jobs provide to us, and I had we had the situation where there was a universal basic income and everybody was set and didn't need to work for money. But everybody needed to do something that this was our culture, that we during the week, we'd like to all do something that makes us feel productive. It could be productive for yourself, productive for others, but stuff that makes us feel productive, right? So keep that situation in mind, all right? And so be in that world. And now write down on a piece of paper A, B, C, D, and write out whatever pops to mind. What would A be? What would you do in that situation that I just explained, where we have a universal basic income, everything's taken care of, you don't need to do anything for money, for, financial purposes, your family's taken care of, everyone's taken care of. But we live in a culture where productivity measured by our own personal standards of what makes us feel like we're doing something productive, is what we generally do day in and day out. Obviously, you still have vacation, you still have time off. That's important, right? That's self-care. So it's not a matter of, working to the bone, right? It just means that in general, we spend a good amount of our time doing things that are productive, that we consider productive. And that's the only litmus test we consider productive. So write down A, B, C, D, and go ahead, write those things out. When you write them out, I find that for a certain percentage of people at C, that's the last thing they write. The D is kind of an afterthought a lot of times. A lot of times it'll be self-care or something to do with, I got to do yoga. I would do yoga more often, that kind of thing. So when you look at your responses, don't worry if you don't get to D. All right. And don't listen to this part of the episode until you've written those three or four, if you do have a D, of course, right? Responses. Okay. And then come on back to, this part of the video. All right. And when you look at those, I've found that A and B tend to be things that are at the top of your mind that you do. First of all, you're going to do all of these things that you've written down, period. You probably do some of them already. But the point here is that once you get out the things that you're thinking about right now and you kind of like exhausted that list, that's where C happens. When the exhaustion of the list happens, that's the place where you're going to find the thing that's the core strength. That's what I've found. So see what your C is. And this will sound familiar, right? Because we have the card, third time's a charm. We have all of those worksheets where the third thing is the most important thing. And this is why, and I've explained that in previous episodes, but it's worth repeating, that the kind of trick to the technique and the thing that's helpful about the technique is that when we get to the place where we've kind of like almost run out of ideas, we come up with the idea that is like the most central and core and important to us. That is what I have found doing this exercise with, probably 1,000 people. I mean, a lot. And so I want to share that with you so you think about things that, what you're operating from in terms of a place of confidence. Think about C there today, the one you had under section C of your, things that you've written down, because that is going to be something you can operate from a place of confidence about. And then, so once we have a thing where we've discovered, and this is a self kind of discovery thing, right? Where we've found what are kind of a core strength of ours and where we have confidence. Now we can understand when we're operating where to draw confidence from. And that's very helpful. And knowing that you know something yourself is always the key to confidence. And that's all it involves and people, it's interesting because we always externalize it. We always say, I'll be confident if someone else says I'm, good at something, right? Or, and we create these kind of impossible standards and externalize it as opposed to internalizing it. But truth be told, confidence is a matter of internal understanding, right? Because when you know that you have knowledge that you are certain about and about yourself, that you are certain about and you feel about, that projects a confidence and it shows and people see that. That's the only reason we ever talk about others in regard to this, is because others will reflect that confidence back to you when you're talking to them about something that you're absolutely confident about because you know yourself and you understand yourself. And getting to that knowledge of what it is that you are confident about, that is all about you, that is the one simple thing that leads to confidence. So, try this exercise. Read this sentence out loud to yourself. I want to be blank. Fill in the blank with something. And then understand how to get yourself to the place where your strengths, as you know, we did that exercise with ABCD, where your strengths are intersecting with that new piece of accomplishment and confidence that you want to have in whatever you're doing. See what your strength is in regard to that, and then you'll understand how to approach that. And then instead of just saying to yourself, I want to be X, you'll be able to say it to the world, and it will show in people's faces when you tell them that you are X. So, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time on Life's Potluck Buffet. Thanks for joining me.